All right, Jason Rona back here at the Indoor National Series Final. We're here at Beach RC. We're catching up with a few of the racers here today, and what we get asked quite often is, how do you get better at racing? What does it take? What do you have to do? These guys that have YouTube videos and stuff, you see the questions down below, and people are always asking, man, how do I do this? How do I get better? And we got two guys here that are kind of working on that, the ladder here to success, trying to get better all the time. And we got Jackson here, and Jackson's hasn't been racing that long. He started with a Slash, I believe, like a lot of people do, and very popular starting vehicle, but got hooked real quickly. And Jackson talked to us about sort of this kind of climbing into getting to the point where you can race with some of the big boys. And you've had a lot of great opportunities this year, racing a lot of big events. That doesn't guarantee anything. It's still a ton of work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so pretty much I've just been gaining as much knowledge as possible, going to all these races. The big thing to me, I think, is, hanging out with Spencer and all those guys, just absorbing all the knowledge when we go to these smaller races, like when me and Lee go to, that we can just, rely on the information we've got from all these races and share it between each other and all our teammates at like the Force Race or Super Cups. And that's the biggest thing. And yeah, it's just a ton of fun at these races, so I'm pumped.
So, something that Paul brought up really early when he was watching you race and being around you is he's like, Jackson is not afraid to ask for anything. And if you turn him down, he doesn't get mad, but he asks. So, and he'll say, hey, you'll go right up before you knew these guys, or Spencer, you go up, what's your setup? What do we need to do? You text these guys and you talk to them on Facebook. You're like, I need to know. I want to get better. So talk to us about sort of sticking your neck out there a little bit and kind of just trying to ask these guys how to go faster.
Yeah, I mean, something my dad always used to tell me is just, these guys, they're just normal guys, so approach them like normal guys and, they won't mistreat you and they'll help you. I mean, I think a couple of races, I mean, I've had people come up to me and it's awesome. It feels great, so I'm sure it feels the same for like Mayfield or Spencer and all those guys. So, yeah, just, don't be afraid. Just come up or just a text away or walk away and, yeah, we usually share all the information.
Yeah, so, Jackson being from Georgia, but we got Lee here from Florida. And Lee, you're in a kind of a unique situation, too, where, your parents have a track, Setzer's Raceway Hobbies. You're there all the time, helping prep, get ready for races, and you have a kind of a unique track that it almost seems like, in a sense, it's helped you a little bit, but you've really used some of those opportunities really to your advantage to get better and trying to climb this ladder to compete with the big boys. So what's it like for you to kind of, get ready and try to prep, and just what's your routine to just try to compete?
Yeah, so basically I'll just, run at the track and do a little bit of practice before a big race. And I like to do that first and, just put on the computer at the track and, see if you can improve your lap times and your consistency. And, I'll practice, and then we'll tear down the cars, wrench on them, rebuild them, replace parts, and usually get ready for the big race coming up. And so we'll just practice, wrench, and make sure everything's done.
So when you're racing in Florida, we do a lot of the Force races. Jackson talked about that. We got the Super Cups, and the surfaces kind of range there now in Florida, especially in 10 scale. I mean, you go one weekend you're racing on carpet, next weekend you guys, we ran an asphalt race. That's your track, which is really cool, unique. Check that out on YouTube. And then normally you have your dirt track, and it's kind of sealed, or it has sort of some sugar characteristics to it just to kind of keep the dust down, the traction up, but the way you have that roofed over, there's a lot of poles on the track, which something that I think, to me, you've kind of used to your advantage, because when you come to these races, you don't always get to stand where you want. You don't always get to have the perfect angle at everything because the fast guys take the best spots. So something I think has been kind of helpful watching you is it seems like you can stand anywhere, especially at your track. And you're just like, well, if that pole's there or whatever, I work around it. And it seems like that's kind of helped you, kind of in sort of a, kind of a quiet way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, unfortunately there are a lot of poles at my track, but what I always tell people is that it's under a roof, and, we get to race all the time, no matter what. So, yeah, I mean, the poles, like you said, they don't really bother me as much. And, when we come to these bigger races or something like that, I'm pretty comfortable, standing pretty much anywhere on the stand and able to get around the track. So yeah, I definitely think it's something that's kind of helped improve um, on the driver's stand and just driving, because you're not always going to get that spot. So.
Yeah, especially when you're running with the heroes, they're going to get up there, they're going to get their spot. We usually go up in where your qualifying order or where you finished last round, however we're doing it that weekend. But you guys go up there and sometimes you get the last pick, and it's not the most ideal position, and you got to work with it because you got to do well too, and you can't have your favorite spot. And it seems like that's been kind of helpful to you out there. And kind of flipping back over with Jackson, when you're out traveling this year, you've kind of swapped back and forth between electric and nitro. You got a lot of experience. Any particular races where you kind of felt like, man, I really took a lot away from this. I kind of had a little bit of a result, I kind of peaked at a moment and felt like, man, I'm getting this. Do you have any particular races that really kind of stood out for you?
I'd have to say, I mean, we had Fall Brawl last weekend, but just a brief on another race, the Roar Nationals for the Field Nats. I mean, that was a pretty good race. I mean, I was able to make the semi again, which, that's not easy. And I was really impressed with myself. But going back to the Fall Brawl, me and Lee went up there, and, we did really good, I would think. I mean, I think I got second in E-Buggy and a TQ'd around, so I was pretty pumped on that. Nitro, I didn't have the best of qualifying, but we ran that mud race and was able to work my way up to fourth. And yeah, I mean, from that race, we did the mud race, and the biggest thing I took from that is the thing I really love doing about Nitro is just the tuning aspect from the engine. That's something I really love doing. And I was just happy, my everything stayed running, everything stayed together, I had no issues. So that was something that I was really just kind of happy with. Is just, we ran from one condition being high grip, and then we ran into mud, and it was, everything stayed running very good. So.
Yeah, I mean, what I've noticed too is, with your racing is, you seem like you're a racer too that have used the internet and Facebook and everything to your advantage to get better. Looking at those setups, looking at videos online, seeing past races, and kind of learning in different ways. And I think, was there any special videos that you've watched or things that you kind of been around that say, hey, this helped my nitro or this helped my electric program?
I would say on the YouTube aspect, I try to watch most of the world's videos because every world is a challenge, and for whatever reason, whoever wins makes the best of it. So, I mean, I would have to say probably the best worlds I've watched, personally, is the Carolina Nats, the one in 2008. That was just a pretty awesome race to watch. I mean, it was muddy, I think, the beginning of the weekend or something like that, and it was an awesome race to watch. But the thing to take from the electric stuff and looking on Facebook and all these social media accounts is, it's everybody's out running and doing their best at these races, and sometimes it's often underlooked, I would say. But you see the guys that don't really do a lot of social media, which is kind of unfortunate. But I mean, seeing the social media stuff is really a big thing, I think, in the industry. So that's something I try to take a pride of and something I like doing.
So Lee, Jackson kind of alluded to the fact that you guys did the fall brawl, and I think, coming here in December, you've been running a lot of force races this year. You won the one part of the series in Nitro. That part of your program's really coming along, and it kind of really came together for you at the fall brawl. Really running with the big boys, right?
Yeah. Like you said, everything came together, and I haven't been racing as Nitro as long as Jackson or these guys in Florida, but for a minute, for a while, it was kind of a struggle. Just had these tweaks that had to be worked out, and I got buckled down and I learned what I needed to learn, and asking Jackson and Spencer and these guys, and just taking this knowledge and learning all this stuff for basically a totally different breed of racing and for Nitro. And and then we went to Fall Brawl, and we just did really well. I mean, I got I had a third in round one overall, and I almost TQ'd round two of Pro Nitro Buggy, and got third in the main in the mud. And so yeah, I mean, it's just all coming together and kind of falling in places, and so yeah.
But by no sense of the imagination, are you finished? Either one of you guys. I mean, I think you get in this, you start tasting a little bit of success, and then to me, I've always felt like when you're doing well, the motivation goes even more because now you're like, man, I've seen it come together, and now you can see what you can get out of yourself, and now like you start, for me, it's like you start really fine tuning. You're like, all right, I got it going here. This is where I can excel. Here, I need to work on this. Is there something that you kind of see that you need to work on, kind of going into 2020 and just kind of being a better racer and a little more well-rounded?
Something that Brent Telke and Spencer and sometimes you guys and Thomas, just racecraft. That's something that Brent always told me that it just takes time, but you're not going to gain it all in one race. But just traveling to all these races and practicing with the guys, it's just something that comes over time, and I'm really motivated to get that going.
Yeah, I mean that's it. A big part of this is the dedication. A lot of times people don't see, behind the scenes, but it's a lot of work to prep these cars, and especially 8 scale. Get them going. You run a mud run, you go back, and you're like, oh man, I got to turn this whole thing down. But that's part of it, and if you don't enjoy that part of it, you're not going to enjoy any of it because that's the majority of the time you're wrenching.
Yeah, I would say it's probably 50-50, maybe 60-40 for the wrenching and racing. But, I mean, wrenching's fun. Yeah, I just enjoy it.
So Lee, let's jump back a little bit too, and kind of the same question as Jackson. Going through the, by no means are you done working on the craft, we'll say, and talk to us about where the areas that you think you need to improve, and just some things that you think that you could work on, kind of going into 2020, and to kind of take it another little step.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely have to say the racecraft, same as what Jackson said. I mean, you and Thomas and these Brent and Spencer. I mean, you guys have, especially you have, helped me out tremendously, and so just the racecraft in general, just going to these races and learning and absorbing all this knowledge. That's something that I'm very motivated to work at, and so yeah, just get that going for 2020, and hit up these other races, and see what happens.
All right. Well, where are we going to see you next 2020? I heard you talking a little bit about Reedy Race Champions.
Yeah, I'll be there. So Reedy Race up next.
All right. So we'll go over to Jackson. Jackson, tell us where we're going to see you next, and what's the next event you're going to be hitting up.
So, I think we talked about it. CRC. It was a fun race last year, so I'm pumped to go again. It's really cold, but I had a good time. Me and Thomas went. It was fun. I did great, so looking to back it up again.
All right, well, let's give a shout out to you guys, the sponsors here. We'll hit Lee here first, and make sure to thank everybody back home and the family and everything.
Yeah, so I'd just like to say thanks to Team Associated, Reedy, JConcepts, Wireworks, X Designs, my mom and dad, and just you, Thomas, all these guys, and all my friends and family back home, and super thankful to have such awesome people who support me, away from the track and at the track.
All right, well, Jackson, give us a rundown here, see what you got, and see if you can remember on the sponsors, and don't forget the family here, too.
I'd like to thank Team Associated, Reedy, JConcepts, OSVP. Oh, darn. Futaba. Yeah, Futaba. And Stick It One, and Easy Customs, and, of course, my family, and you guys for putting on the videos and the series. The series is awesome. I love coming to it. And, I'd like to thank Spencer as well for all his help. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again. Thanks for joining us. These two up-and-comers, and kind of showing you a little bit of the path, what it takes to kind of get going. And by no means is it over. You got to work really hard. And you guys watch. I know that we got Mayfield, Spencer, and all these guys back in the pits. And I know you guys keep a kind of a hawk eye on them, too, see what they're doing. And they're working hard to stay up front, and that's what it takes. And thanks for joining us. And watch out for some great video later. Live feeds coming for these mains. They're going to be nuts. Yeah.
Just
Got that old man throat.
Yeah.